Hello everyone, welcome to today's video lecture of object-oriented programming using Java with the paper code CS504A. This is Shayani Chandru, Assistant Professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Guru Nanak Institute of Technology. Let's look at today's lecture contents. Today we will learn about the basic concepts of string handling in Java. Then after that we will learn about the mutable and immutable strings available in Java. Then we will learn what are the types of constructors that are available in Java, constructors of strings. Then lastly, we will learn about the string literals and how can you create a string using string literal, and what is the difference between creating a string using string literals or creating a string using instantiation. So let's look at the first concept, which is the basic concept of string handling. So to begin with, let's start with the basic concept of string handling. We have already discussed a brief overview about Java string handling in our previous lectures. Today, in this lecture, we will describe the string handling process in detail. As is the case in most other programming languages, in Java also, a string is a sequence of characters. But unlike some other languages that implement strings as character arrays, Java implements strings as objects of type string, where string is a class in case of Java. Implementing strings as built-in objects allows Java to provide a full complement of features that make the string handling very much convenient. For example, we can say that Java has many methods to compare two strings, then search for a substring, then concatenate two strings, and change of the case of letters within a string, and so on. So all of these operations on a string can be easily performed using string methods that are available in Java. Also, string objects can be constructed in a number of ways, making it easy to obtain a string whenever it is needed. Just as I told in the content slide, that strings can be created by creating objects of string class, or you can also use string literals to create string objects, or user defined strings which can be manipulated by the users. So both these concepts give you much convenience to use these strings in your program in a very efficient way. Somewhat unexpectedly, when you create a string object, you are creating a string that cannot be changed. Remember that when you are creating a string object by instantiating the string class, the string that you are creating cannot be changed. That means when a string object has been created, you cannot change the characters that comprise the string. Suppose we are writing like this, where this S is an object. This S is an object of the string class. So basically this one is the object and this string is the class. Instantiation of this class means that you are creating an object of this class, and this object refers to the strings that the users can manipulate. But the concept is that whenever you are creating a string class object, that means in this case, which is S, you cannot change its contents. That means you cannot change the contents that actually comprises the string or the string object. You cannot change its contents, and this is the reason why we call string class objects are immutable. The concept immutable means that it cannot be changed or modified later. So the concept is that the string class objects are immutable. Immutable because of the reason that you cannot change the contents that comprises the string class object once it is created. And this is the constructor part. This one is the constructor part. We all know that the last portion of the object creation statement is the constructor part. And string class constructor has many forms that we will discuss later in our today's lecture. So this is the concept of string class objects, which is a very, very important concept, which says that string class objects are immutable because once they're created, you cannot change its contents. So it becomes unmodifiable or unchangeable. That's why string class objects are known as immutable objects. Now, to better understand this concept, a program related to string class objects can be done. But for that, you need to know some other basics of string handling in Java, which are the forms available of string class constructors and the methods that can be applied on a string class objects. So after discussing those things, I'll do a program that will demonstrate why string class objects are known as immutable. What are the reasons for that? Now, at first, this may seem to be a serious restriction, that is the immutability of string class objects. But however, that is not the case. You can still perform all types of string operations on the string class objects. The difference is that each time you need an altered version of an existing string, a new string object must be created that contains the modifications. The original string will be left unchanged. This approach is mainly used because fixed immutable strings can be implemented more efficiently than the changeable ones. Now, whenever you are required to use a modifiable string, whenever it is desired to use a modifiable string, there is also some mechanisms in Java. Java provides two options. Two other classes are also there, instantiating which you can create user manipulated strings. The classes are string buffer and string builder. Both these two classes are mutable in nature. That means the objects that you will create by instantiating these classes, which are string buffer class and string builder class, those objects will be treated as mutable objects because they can be changed later. Once they're created, the objects will not be freezed, or the objects will not be um, unchangeable or unmodifiable like the string class objects. You can change the contents of the string class of the objects that you will create from the string buffer or string builder classes. That's why these objects are known as mutable objects in case of Java. So this is another very important concept, which says that what are the mutable objects, what if you need to use mutable objects in Java, and what if you need to change the contents of the objects that you create. In that case also, Java provides you the mechanism, which are string buffer and string builder classes, and by instantiating those two classes, we can easily create mutable string objects in Java. As you can see here that this SB is the object of the string buffer class that I have just created, and this string buffer is another class that Java provides you in order to build, in order to create mutable objects, mutable string objects in Java. That means the contents of these objects can be changed once they are created, unlike the string class objects. Like here we have already told that once this object is being created using this statement, you cannot change the contents that comprises this string object. But here in this statement, you can see that the string object has been created by instantiating the string buffer class. Here you can easily change the contents of the object sp, which is a string type object, which is a string buffer type object, sorry. So as you can change its contents later, that's why it is known as mutable string objects. So this object is mutable in nature, whereas this object is immutable in nature. Both the objects are very much required in case of Java programming. You will see later in next lectures that how much important it is to use immutable objects in Java language, and how it helps to write down the programs more conveniently if you are using immutable objects. But although immutable objects are very much efficient or convenient to use, you will see that mutable objects are also needed whenever you want to change its contents later. It may be possible that in some situations, in some programs, the the string objects that you once create need to be changed later. In those cases, you have to use mutable objects. I'll show you all the objects, whether mutable or immutable, in my lectures, and I'll show you all the methods that are there of the string class and of the string buffer class that can be applied on the string class objects and on the string buffer class objects. So we have learned two very important concepts, which are mutable and immutable strings. Now I'll show you later why the string class objects are known as immutable by doing some programs, after discussing the string class constructors, string literals, and some of the string class methods. Then you will understand that how much convenient it is to use the immutable string objects in a Java program. But although immutable strings are very much convenient to use, mutable strings are also needed whenever you want to change the contents of the string objects later in your program. So these are the three classes that are available in Java in order to create string objects which can be manipulated by the users, which are normally treated as strings in Java. So these are the three classes. I have already told the basic concept of string class and string buffer class, and I have already discussed about the mutable and immutable strings in Java, which in which you have seen these two classes. Another class which is there in Java in order to use string objects is string builder class. So this string builder class is also a mutable class, because whatever objects you will create from this class will all be mutable, because their contents can be changed later. So the last two classes are mutable classes, and that means the objects that you will be creating from these two classes will be mutable in nature. And the first class is immutable, that means the objects that you will be creating from this class will be immutable in nature. So these are the three classes using which you can create user defined string objects in case of Java. And as I have already told that Java treats everything as an object, that's why string is also an object in case of Java. It is not a simple character array unlike C or C++ programming languages. One last point, I have already told that the if you want to say that the strings within the objects of type string class are unchangeable, that means that the contents of the string instance cannot be changed after it has been created. However, a variable declared as a string reference, that means the reference variable of the string class, can be changed to point at some other string class object and at any time. Next, we are going to learn about string class constructors. The string class supports several constructors. To create an empty string, you have to call the default constructor, just as I have shown you. So let me go to the example again. As I have shown you here, this one will create an empty string actually, because here you can see that I have used the constructor part here, but I have not passed any value inside this pair of parentheses. That means this instantiation statement will actually create an instance of the string class. The instance is denoted by this S reference variable, and this instance will be there with no characters inside it. because we have not passed any values here in the string class constructor. So this is the default constructor of the string class, which takes no parameters in it. So if you want to create an empty string like this, you have to call this default constructor here in this object creation statement. So this is the statement which will use the default constructor of the string class to create an instance of the string class with no characters inside it. So frequently you will want to create strings that have initial values. The string class provides a variety of constructors to handle this. To create a string initialized by an array of characters, you have to use this constructor. This is the syntax of the constructor that will create a string object that will be initialized by an array of characters. This is the array name. You can give any name to it, and this is the data type of the array. That means this array will hold the objects of character types. So using these values that the array will contain, using these values, the string object that you will create using this constructor will be initialized. So let's take an example to show you this. Here you can see that this is an array, character array that we have taken in Java. This is the character array. This is the array name, which is chars that I have given. And these are the values of the array. That means this array has a size 3 and it contains these 3 values, which are characters A, B and C. Now we are creating a string class object, which is S, and here we are passing the array. This is the array name that I have given. If you give some other name to this array, then you have to write down that name here. So this is the array name. If you are passing the array name here in this constructor part, then this string class object S will be created by initializing with ABC. That means the string class object S will be created, which will be initialized using this constructor with the string ABC. So if you print the value of S, it will give you ABC like this. So S will contain all the characters that are there inside this character array. That means ABC. So this will be the content of the string class object S. If you print the value of S, you will find out that the output is ABC. That means this constructor has initialized this string class object with the string ABC. Now it is not a string. These all are characters, and all the characters will be written one after another. That means all the characters will be appended or concatenated with each other to form this string, which will be stored in the string class object S. Now you can also specify a subrange of a character array as an initializer, and for that you have to use the constructor of the form, this. So this is the constructor of this is the string class constructor using which you can specify a subrange of a character array as an initializer. Here this is the character array, this is the data type of the array, this is the array name. You can give any name to it. Then you can see that variable start index, which is an integer variable, is written. The start index specifies the index at which the subrange will begin, and then you can see another variable numchars, which is another integer variable is written. This numchars specifies the number of characters to use. So let's take an example to show you this. So I have written a small piece of code. I have not written the full code here. You can see that this chars is a character array which contains these 6 characters. That means the size of the character array chars is 6. And these are the single characters that are there as values or elements of the character array. Then we have created an instance of the string class using this reference variable S. And this is the constructor where we have passed the array itself, which is the chars array. This is the start index. So the substring will be started at the index 2. We know that indexing starts from 0 in case of array. So this is the 0th index, this is the first index, and this is the second index. So substring will start here, and how many characters it will take? 3. So if this is the starting index, then it will take 3 characters, which are C, D, E. So if you print the value of S, it should give you C, D, E. That means the output, if you print the value of S, that should be C, D, E concatenated with each other. So this is the string that will be stored in the S object, which is a string class object. So this is how you can use this constructor in string instantiation statement. You can construct a string object that contains the same character sequence as another string object using this constructor. So this is the constructor which will allow you to construct a string object that contains the same character sequence of as another string object. Now here this strobj is a string object. So let's do a program now in order to see how you can do this. This is a program that demonstrates how you can create a string object that contains the same character sequence as another string object. This is the main class, this is the main method, this is a character array which contains 4 characters. This S1 is an object of the string class, and here inside this constructor we have passed the character array. So this is a creation of a string S1 using a constructor which takes an array of characters as input that I have already shown to you. Now we have created another string class object S2, and here in the constructor part we have passed S1, the previous object, this one, as the value. That means S2 will also now contain these characters JAVA. So S1, after passing the character array C inside its constructor, S1 will contain all the characters that are there inside this character array, which are JAVA. All of them will be concatenated with each other, and the string will be stored inside this S1 object. And this S2 object will contain the same characters which are there inside the S1 object, because we have passed the S1 object here in this constructor. And S2 object will also contain Java as the string. So if you print the values of S1 and S2, you will see both of them contain Java inside them. So let's execute the program to see the output. As I have just told that both the string objects S1 and S2 will contain Java inside them. So both of them, if they are printed, both of them will give you the same characters, which are JAVA Java. Even though Java's char type uses 16 bits to represent the basic Unicode character set that we all know, the typical format for strings on the internet uses arrays of 8-bit bytes constructed from the ASCII character set. Because 8-bit ASCII strings are common, the string class provides constructors that initialize a string when given a byte array. There are 2 forms to initialize a string object using byte array for the string constructors, which are these. So these are the 2 constructors that are used to initialize a string whenever you are given a byte array. So these 2 constructors are same like the ones you have used in case of character arrays. So here the CHRS means the array of bytes actually, and the second form, that means this form of the constructor of the string class, allows you to specify a sub range using the start index, which will give you the starting point of the sub range of the characters of the array, byte array. And the numchars will tell you how many numbers, how many characters you will take not characters here. In case of this, it is bytes, how many bytes you will take starting from the start index. So in each of these two constructors, the byte to character conversion is done by using the default character encoding of the platform. So let us do a program to demonstrate this concept. So this is the program that demonstrates how you can use the uh, byte arrays in case of a string class constructor. This is the main class, and this is the main method. This ASCII is the array of bytes, and these are the ASCII values actually. Then this S1 string will hold the string class object, and this is the constructor in which we have passed the array of bytes. So this is actually using the first constructor that I have just shown. And if you print the value of S1, then these are the ASCII values. So 65 is the ASCII value of capital A, 66 is for capital B, this one is for capital C, capital D, capital E, and capital F. So S1 will contain all the characters of this array of bytes, which are capital A, B, C, D, E, F. So S1 will give you capital A, B, C, D, E, F. And after that, we have created another string class object where we have used the second form of the constructor whose syntax I have just shown. This is the array that we are passing. This is the starting index. So 2 is the starting index, means that starting from 0, 2 will be this one. So this is the starting index, and these are the number of characters that we will take, or number of ASCII values that we will take. So 3 values we will take starting from 67. So the 3 values will be 67, 68, and 69. And we know that 67 means C, capital C, 68 means capital D, and 69 means capital E. So the value of S2 will be printed as capital C, D, E. So let's execute the program to show you the output. Here you can see that I have saved the program using the name makestring.java. So I have compiled the program using the file name.java, and this is the main class that has been used in case of interpretation statement. And these are the outputs that I was telling you about. S1 contains a value A, B, C, D, E, F, all the capital characters, and S2 contains only the capital characters C, D, E. So these are the two outputs of the program that used the array of bytes in their constructors, where you have learned two types of constructors are there if you are using an array of bytes in order to create a string class object. One thing you should keep in mind that the contents of the array are copied whenever you create a string object from an array. If you modify the contents of the array after you have created the string object, then the string will remain unchanged. Now you can also construct a string object from a string buffer object, and you can also construct a string object from a string builder object, and for both the cases there are constructors defined for the string class. These are the two constructors of the string class. The first one says that you can create a string class object using a string buffer object, and the second one says that you can create a string class object from the string builder object. This strbuf obj, this is the string buffer object, and this one is the string builder class object. Using these objects also you can create a string class object, and these are the constructors. These are the syntax of the constructors that you will use for that case. So this is all about string constructor. Now let's move on to the next topic of our today's lecture. Because strings are a common and important part of Java programming, Java has added special support for several string operations within the syntax of the language. These operations include the automatic creation of new string instances from string literals, concatenation of multiple string objects by the use of the plus operator, and the conversion of other data types to a string representation. There are explicit methods available to perform all of these functions, but Java does them automatically as a convenience for the programmer and to add clarity. Now, in today's lecture, we will discuss about the first thing, and in our next lectures, we will discuss about the rest of the things that I just told. So now let's discuss about what is string literal. The earlier examples that I have shown you in today's lecture, they have showed you how to explicitly create a string instance from an array of characters by using the new operator. However, there is an easier way to do this using a string literal. For each string literal in your program, Java automatically constructs a string object. Thus, you can use a string literal to initialize a string object. So let us do a simple program to show you how you can use string literals to create string objects. Here in these two statements, we have created a string class object s1, and for that we have used the character array chars. Sorry, there will be an array sign. So this is the character array chars, and these are the characters inside the array, and using this array we have created the s1 string class object. So this s1, if you print the value of s1, this s1 should contain ABC, all the characters concatenated with each other. The next, this statement here, we have taken, this is a reference variable. This reference variable is of string class, and this ABC, this is actually the literal. It is a string literal. I have already discussed about literals in my some very first lectures, where I have already discussed about string literals. So this is a string literal, and using this literal also we can create a string class object. Here s2 is a reference variable of the string class, but if you are assigning a literal into it like this, using this assignment operator, then also it will create an object. Because a string object is created for every string literal, you can use a string literal any place where you can use a string object. For example, you can call methods that are used in on all string objects, which are the methods of string class. All those methods can be directly called on a quoted string as if it were an object reference. So I will discuss about string methods in the next lecture. There I'll show you how you can call any kind of methods on the string literals also, as you can call them on string objects. That means here on this ABC string literal, this is a string literal. On this literal also you can call all these string methods that you can call on this string class object, which is s1. Because if you are using a string literal, then also it creates a string object, and this object is being referred to by this s2 reference variable. Now let us see what is the difference between creating an instance from the string class in order to create a user defined string, and to use string literals in order to create a string, user defined string in Java. There is a huge difference that you have to know. So as we have already discussed that this is the statement for creating a string using the string literal. So whenever you are writing something like this, so basically you are creating a string object using the string literal. String literal is always created in string constant pool. In case of Java, string constant pool is a special area that is used for storing string objects. Internally, string class uses a string constant pool. This string constant pool area is part of the method area until Java 1.6 version. But from Java 1.7 version onwards, string constant pool area is moved in the heap memory, because string constant pool is a fixed size in the method area, but in the heap memory, string constant pool can be expandable. Therefore, the string constant pool has been moved to heap area for memory utilization only. Whenever you create a string literal, JVM checks string constant pool first. If the string already exists in the string constant pool, no new string object will be created in the string pool by JVM. JVM uses the same string object by pointing a reference to it to save memory. But if string does not exist in the string constant pool, JVM creates a new string object and places it in the pool. So let us take an example to better understand this concept. Suppose we are creating two string objects using this string literal, and both the string literals are hello. That means the S1 object will also be created using the string literal hello, and S2 object will also be created using the string literal hello. So here in this first statement, whenever the JVM will execute this statement, it will not find any string with the value hello in the string constant pool. So it will create an object in the string constant pool, and it will store the string hello, this one, in that object. That means S1 in that case will refer to the object that will be created inside the string constant pool, which will contain the value hello. This object, which will be created inside the string constant pool containing the value hello, will be then referenced by this string reference variable, string class reference variable S1. In other words, we can say that if literal is not available in the pool, a new object will be created in the pool, and the address of that object will be assigned to a reference variable S1. Now, when this second statement will be executed by JVM, it will first check the string constant pool to know whether any string object with the same content is already there or not. Since string with value hello, this value, is already available in the string constant pool, so JVM will not create any new string object in the pool, and address of the available object will assign to the reference variable S2 also. That means it will point a reference variable S2 to the old existing object. That means the old existing object which was previously pointed by S1 will now be pointed by S2, but S1 still points to that object also. So let us depict this scenario with a picture. The case I have just described, the case that I have just described is this one, where you can see that we have written two statements in order to create two objects, S1 and S2, using the string literal hello. So whenever the first statement is executed by S1, by JVM, JVM will first check whether the string constant pool contains any object which contains the value hello or not. So whenever the first statement will be executed, there will be no object containing the value hello in the SCP or string constant pool. So in that case, the JVM will create a new object inside the string constant pool or SCP, which is this one containing the value hello. And this S1, which is a reference variable of the string class, will point to this object. After that, when JVM will execute the second statement, JVM will check in the SCP area whether any object of value hello is there or not inside the string constant pool or SCP area. It will check that, it will find out that an object containing the value hello is there inside the string constant pool, so it is not going to create any new object. And whenever we will write string S2 equal to hello, that means S2 is a reference variable of string class, which will also point to the same object that has been previously created by the JVM inside the string constant pool. That means S1 and S2 both will point to the same object in the string constant pool. So if this object was not there, then for the second statement also, JVM would have been created an object containing the value hello inside the string constant pool. But as this object is already there inside the SCP area, that's why JVM is not going to create any other object. Both the reference variables will point to the same object inside the SCP area. That means here in this scenario, only one object is being created inside the string constant pool. Although we are not writing any object creation statement that we normally write in a Java program, but still objects are being created inside the string constant pool if you are creating a string object using string literals. So let's depict the next picture. Let's describe the next picture where we will be creating um, string object by instantiating the string class. That means we will be creating a string object S by creating an object of the string class. So whenever we will create an object of the string class using the new operator like this that I have already discussed several times in my today's lecture, like this, JVM will create actually two objects. First, it will create an object in the heap area and store string hello into the object, which is this one. Whenever you will be executing this statement, that means whenever you want to create a user defined string by using the new operator, that means by instantiating the string class like this, firstly JVM will create an object in the heap area. This is the heap area, and we know that the string constant pool lies in the heap area that I have just told. So this is the object that will be created first, and after that, after storing this object into the memory, jvm will point jvm will make this reference variable s point to this object. That means here in this case, whenever this statement will be executed, here in the heap area, memory allocation will be done for the object. This is the string literal that has been passed as value to the string class constructor, which will be here, and this s, which is a reference variable of string class, will now point to this object in the heap area, as you can see this in this figure. Now JVM will create the second object as a copy for literal hello. This hello is a literal because whenever you are using a literal, we know that an object will be created inside the string constant pool or scp area. So as we are passing a literal, a string literal inside the string class constructor, so for this literal, for as a copy of this literal, the jvm will create a second object in the string constant pool. Here, this is the object for the future purpose. There is no explicit reference variable pointing to this copy of the object. This copy of the object inside this pool is not being referenced by any reference variable of the string class, but internally JVM maintains the reference variable implicitly. So as we are passing this string literal here inside the string class constructor, so we all know that for every string literal, JVM creates an object inside the string constant pool area. That's why JVM is creating an object for this literal inside the string constant pool, and this object is not being referenced by any reference variable of the string class. Instead, JVM keeps this object internally, and JVM also maintains the reference variable implicitly in this purpose. In this context, one thing that you have to keep in mind that the objects that are created in the string constant pool area is not eligible for garbage collection, because implicitly the reference variable will be maintained by JVM itself. As we all know that normal objects are eligible for garbage collection, but as these objects are created inside the string constant pool, so these objects are not eligible for garbage collection. So today we have seen three ways of creating string objects. The first one is this one, which is by using string literal. The second one is this one, which is by instantiating the string class and using the string class constructor. And here we have passed a literal value. You can also keep it as a default constructor. And the third one, the third way to create a string object that we have learned today is by passing a character array or some array of bytes inside the string class constructor here in order to create a string class object. So there are three ways that we have learned today. In our next lecture, we will see how using the plus operator we can do string concatenation, which Java allows us to do. Then we will see some of the string class methods that can be applied on string class objects which are immutable in nature. And then we will see how all those methods can also be used on string literals also. Thank you for listening to today's lecture. See you in the next lecture.